So I saw the photos of you jumping out of that plane.
And Dirk took those photos. He came both days. We didn't jump Saturday. We jumped Sunday. It was amazing.
Okay, so first of all, I have to say that you looked absolutely adorable with your pigtails and your jumpsuit and your little peace sign. And I was wondering where we would see photos of or video of the actual jump. Did the person who was doing the tandem jump take a video or photos?
It's on the website, and unfortunately, my gums are flapping in the wind. and my
Even in midair, you're talking?
Well, that's what James said. He goes, look, you can't even keep your mouth shut at 17,000 feet free falling. For some reason, I couldn't shut my mouth, so my gums are going. I look like I was from Whoville at one point.
I think the terminal velocity does that to everybody. But
Possibly.
No, but when you kind of, sprung up, you really reminded me of Wonder Woman.
You are Wonder Woman.
I'm Mary Ellen Murphy with WGHN Radio.
And I'm Sarah Leach with the Ottawa News Network.
This is Two J's in a Pod. The J stands for journalist. I have some notes here.
Yeah, we have a lot.
At the top of my list, I wrote down white fragility. So let's revisit that a little bit later, okay?
Okay.
I would imagine, I did have Josh Brugger on the show today. That interview is at the WGHN podcast section, WGHN.com. He stated that there was somebody there from Saginaw yesterday that made a public comment. What was that all about?
Yeah, this guy comes up during public comment and he says, I'm from Bridgetown Township. And I thought, wait a minute, I've never heard of that one before. I had to Google it. He says, yeah, I'm from all the way from the other side of the state. And I've been here before and I've talked before, and I'm just thinking, what's happening right now? Because we haven't had this much, weird in about, a year and a half. Mm-hmm. And I think that he meant well. He seemed to, the big polarizing thing was about the motto, the county motto, and whether or not to keep it, change it, change it back to what it was, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. And he seemed to be in favor of not the county motto as in its current form before last night.
Okay.
But I don't think that he really read up on what's going on in Ottawa County either, because at the second public comment, he got up a second time and he said, hey, I didn't know you guys had 2 sessions of public comment around in these parts. And everyone laughs. And I'm just thinking,
what did he show up for?
What is going on? I'm like, what? Like, do you have friends here? Like, I don't.
You and I going
to
to
want to know your origin story. How did you come here?
He probably has friends with someone.
Probably. He looked young. Maybe he's got, some young friends here or something like that. Yeah.
I mean, that would be like you and I taking a road trip. Oh, let's go to the Livingston County Board of Commissioners meeting.
Wouldn't that be wild? I hear that they're a mini Ottawa County.
Oh, they are.
Yeah.
They are.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I can speak a lot about Livingston County. Yeah, they are. Okay. All right. So yesterday, I was a little bit shocked. Because I had commissioners on, and I believe even in one of the commercials that ran when they were running, they had stated that they would do everything they could to bring back Where You Belong. Mm-hmm. And now we've done a complete 180.
Well, I think that, changing it from Where You Belong, which is the motto that was adopted in 2017. Mm-hmm. Now, it's important to note that this was not just on a whim of the former county commission in its manifestation in 2017. This was a culmination of a survey, public input. I mean, they really did like a whole process in terms of what would be the right motto for the county. And this was done with the ultimate goal of trying to recruit people to come and live here so that employers could use it.
I see.
To say, hey, this is a great place to live and work. You want to come and work here. They really wanted to attract a diverse workforce. It's not necessarily what a lot of people called last night the vision statement of the county. Vision statements are much more complex. They're not just 4 words or 3-4 words. They are a multi-layered, multi-paragraphed. This is ultimately like what we stand for. These are our goals. This is our value system. Like that's what a vision statement is. And so I think that using those terms interchangeably is really misleading. So we kind of get to this this point where in 2023, the first meeting of the now Ottawa Impact-led board, they change it on January 3rd to say from Where You Belong to Where Freedom Rings, with 0 public input. And so that has ever since then been a polarizing action. And I think that when the slate of candidates ran last year and ultimately a more moderate Republican majority is now on the board, they kind of use that as a rallying cry to say, we don't like, kind of people taking over the joint and just doing whatever they want. That's not the way that this is supposed to work. It's supposed to be a consensus and that sort of thing. So I don't know if they necessarily promised that they would change it back, but I do know that they didn't like the way that it was changed in 2023.
Right.
And the existing motto was problematic and politically polarizing for many reasons.
Right. Yeah. And I said to Josh off the air today, I said, you guys aren't going to agree on a motto. It's not going to happen.
Right.
You're not
Right.
going to be able to agree on anything. It's just, there's just going to, it's not going to
Well,
happen.
that's why this was a really smart move in my estimation, because rather than changing it back to what they know far-right conservatives didn't like before, let's just not have a motto at all. I think Commissioner Phil Kyers made a great point. And actually, I'm sorry, it was Commissioner Jim Barry. He said that he did some research into how many counties in Michigan actually have a motto, and it's less than half.
Oh.
So
I didn't know that.
why would we have a
Interesting.
motto at all? Maybe we are in line with the majority. It tends to get us into, sticky situations like this where we're arguing over what we stand for and what we don't. Let's just not have one at all. And I think that this is more of a level set than it is necessarily endorsing one political ideology over the other. Not that it wasn't attempted to be made into that.
Public comment was very passionate on both sides.
Yeah, I was triggered from 2023. Yeah. An hour in, I was like, oh, this is... Ooh, we're going to be here for a minute. It was more than 90 minutes worth of public comment, mostly about the motto and whether or not we liked freedom and if we took freedom out of the motto. The county motto, then we're not for freedom,
and
apparently.
Not everybody belongs here.
Right.
Okay, I don't even know where to start with that.
I will say that one of the far-right conservatives made a really good point because the Bridgetown Township guy said, What would it feel like if we had the motto "Where Freedom Rings" and you hang that on the wall of the county jail? So then somebody else gets up who is for the current motto of "Where Freedom Rings." Well, it was current as of last night. It has since been taken away. We no longer have a motto. Spoiler alert. And this conservative goes up and says, "Well, how would you like to have "Where You Belong" also posted in the county jail?" And both of them are problematic, and I just thought, it's actually a really good point.
Wow. That is, and then, each of the commissioners had a chance to speak, and they spoke with a lot of passion and conviction. They did.
Yeah, many of them came in with prepared speeches.
Sure.
I don't think that was necessarily surprising from the Ottawa Impact perspective. That's kind of a methodology that they've employed for the past 2.5 years, and they really get their thoughts down. I'm not necessarily criticizing that MO, but I guess it comes off as less genuine when you're not just speaking from the heart and just speaking as you feel. It seems more strategic, and I guess if that's the way that you want to come across, then that's fine. I am more of the mindset of we have to kind of just speak from the heart. We have to say what we feel in the moment. And if we fumble through some of those words, then that's okay. I mean, you and I do that all the time on this podcast.
I know.
But I think that it comes off as much more genuine and resonates with your base more.
All right. Well, I'm fucking sick of talking about the pandemic.
Oh my gosh.
Sick of it.
I am.
I'm done.
I got to tell you, it is. I mean, I was making comments on my Twitter, and I have a lot more latitude on my social media now that I'm not working for legacy media.
Right.
A little bit more independent, and I can kind of say, are we still talking about masks? And I will say that one of my favorite moments of this meeting, because it really did harken back to some of the meetings that we saw over the past, the previous 2 years before the current board came in. There was a speech made by Commissioner Brugger, and he talked about where the origin of the words "Where Freedom Rings" comes from. And it is from Dr. Martin Luther King's speech, "I Have a Dream" speech in Washington. And even in the resolution when it was passed by the OI-led board in 2023, they do give acknowledgement to Dr. King and say, we believe in his words. And, and so they sort of use that as a justification. And when Brugger was talking last night, he's saying, how dare we? He didn't say this expressly, but he's basically, essentially, I'm summarizing. How dare we hearken, back to the time of the civil rights movement and use that language after 170 years of, slavery and torture and death and, the atrocities that happened, and even after the slaves were emancipated, we had African Americans that were going through just, decades worth of discrimination, segregation, even still abuse and torture. And he's holding up pictures of, the fire hoses and Rosa Parks and Ruby trying to go to school and the whole bit. And he says, how dare we liken this 180 days worth of masks to 170 years worth of atrocities against a very particular subset of the American population.
Yeah.
That it's just, and he said, if I can't get through to you on this point, then I don't think that I can soften hardened hearts. And I think that was the moment of last night. And there really wasn't a whole lot that I think that defenders of this motto could really say to something like that. Commissioner Moss tried to sort of parlay it into a talking point for his own benefit by saying, well, I think that you and I agree that freedom, this is the reason why freedom needs to be the county motto. It kind of went over like a lead balloon. I don't think that it was really the point that he intended to make. And so I think that Commissioner Brugger was pretty effective.
We should have a best speech and the worst speech.
We really should.
Because, we should.
With sound effects and everything.
Oh, that'd be great.
I feel like Dirk can do that. Dirk can do anything.
That would be awesome. I remember when I had just started radiation. And so this would have been 3 years ago, August. Late July, August. I had just started radiation for my breast cancer. And I had read a story about the pandemic and how the numbers were starting to rise again. Okay. I got a phone call on the request line, and this woman and I'll never forget the sound of her voice. The sound of her voice was so vile. I had never experienced anything like that. And she kept saying, we're coming for you, Mary Ellen. We're coming for you. Yeah. We know where you work. We know what time you get there. We're so tired of your effing lies about COVID. We're coming, and just screaming at me. And I'm already exhausted from radiation. I have breast cancer. I'm exhausted. So she hangs up. I start crying, not on the air, off the air, because I'm shaking. Yeah. I start crying, and then I decide I'm going to use this.
Yeah.
I open up the microphone, and I talk about how this woman just threatened me, and then I end up playing a song that sort of goes with the point that I was trying to make. We ended up getting caller ID because of that. And the Grand Haven Department of Public Safety would do a drive around for 2 weeks early in the morning to make sure that I was okay. This woman was so disgusting, and so I still get chills when I think about, we're coming for you. You're next, Mary Ellen. You're next. All I did was read a COVID story.
Yeah.
How dare you?
I think that we need to start with the baseline assumption that America is entitled. Last week I talked about
that's a fact.
The internship that I had in Beijing. I will tell you, when I got back from Beijing, I remember landing. I remember going out to my aunt's car to drive me home, and I remember smelling the air, and it was clean. I don't know how to describe this moment to other people, because when I was in China, I didn't realize that the air was dirty. It's not like I just walked off the plane and I just smelled smog. But it was visceral when I got back. And for some reason I had, I'm seeing all these people honking their horns because somebody just cut somebody off. And I'm coming from a country where, I saw these children begging on the street. I saw people with severed fingers, just begging for any kind of scraps of food. I saw, just the worst of the worst, like people just so down and out. Whole families, being moved overnight if they were just an inconvenience in the street. People carted off by the police, and I get back, and we are so privileged in this country, and we are so selfish.
I know.
It really does create a selfishness. So when something like COVID happens, we just kind of become intractable in our positions, because we shouldn't have to walk 10 more feet.
Right.
I shouldn't have to be pushed over to one side of the aisle of the grocery store so that I can't infect another person with a potentially deadly disease. It's just the first world problems that this has created and has given a voice to is just frankly repugnant to me.
Yeah.
And we hear that over and over and over again. And I just hoped that, we're 5 years out of COVID. I don't understand why we're still talking about masks when they haven't been a thing. Look, I lived through the K through 12 challenges of somebody came in, somebody got exposed, you got to take your kid home for the whole week. I did the whole remote thing the year before that. I lived through it too. And I hated life for a little while. I mean, it was hard. I wasn't having a party.
Exactly.
No one was.
I took a 70% pay cut.
I know. I was on quarterly furloughs.
There you go. Boom. I don't want to hear
mean,
it. And I
yeah.
still gave 100%
Right.
every effing time I came into that studio.
Right.
I don't want to hear about it anymore.
But you don't get to use it as a political point of a potential problem that you perceive might happen down the road. Like that's what I'm saying. Talk about actual problems. Stop talking about things that are in your head that say this one thing happened once and I didn't like it and I'm always going to talk about it so that it never ever 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 happens again. It's just exhausting. Find new talking points. There's plenty of other stuff to argue about that are along political lines. And why aren't we embracing some of those things? Because those are things that people are actually dealing with now, not in the past, now. Healthcare costs, grocery costs, tariffs. What do we do about immigration? Let's be talking about that stuff. I don't want to hear about masks anymore, man. I just don't want to hear about it. It's ridiculous.
It's absolutely ridiculous.
It is.
And I know Commissioner Brugger is just over it, and I don't want to hear it anymore.
It's kind of like talking to somebody who, I don't know if this is going to resonate with anyone, but I had a stepdad who was in the Vietnam War, and he would constantly find a way to bring up
the Vietnam
War, like in every kind of experience that he had. And it kind of feels like that sort of thing where they just find a way to work it in because it's just living rent-free in their heads.
Here's an idea. Maybe if there would have been a federal mandate, maybe if President Trump would have shut the country down, the whole country for 2 weeks, maybe we wouldn't be in this situation. But instead, he pawned it off on the states because he was too lazy to do anything about it. And then the states, were there mistakes? You bet there were mistakes.
Well, and then it's unpopular in Republican states because they don't want business impeded by what they consider an inconvenience. It goes back to that selfishness, right? We don't want to pause anything for the greater good when in the long run it ended up costing us more in lives and increased costs because let's face it, COVID disrupted the entire global supply chain.
Yeah.
And everyone paid the price for that.
Right.
And not to mention the cost of human lives.
Right. Well, yeah, and that's another thing that they
But
don't
but the dead don't complain.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really hard to complain about COVID when somebody might be listening and they may have lost their spouse or, people died.
Yeah.
And I know people, my former priest, he's retired because he has long COVID.
Right.
He went through years, he even went to the Mayo Clinic. I mean, it was horrible.
So I guess when we're talking, getting back to the county, when we're talking about the motto, a lot of the justification on Ottawa Impact side, they tried to kind of explain why they did what they did without really, quite saying it in those terms. But they just said, look, we had been through years of government overreach with the mask mandates and the health department and the governor, not allowing us to travel. And we were threatened to be put in jail. And I always love it when Commissioner Moss kind of does that self-serving plug about how he was threatened to be put in jail by the health department when the school that he owned and operated, was warned to not, you have to do the K through 6 mask mandate too, and they refused, and so that was a personal choice, and then they have to accept the consequences for the choices that they made. I mean, that's not necessarily, you're not just sitting on the road and then somebody just says, I'm going to throw you in jail. You're not a victim. You were a willing participant, and you made choices, and you knew what the outcome of those choices were. And so it just bothers me when we kind of frame it in those terms. But yeah, it's just a lot of this stuff was, we felt like we had no choice. We had to embrace our freedom. We were going back to the Founding Fathers. Now, talking about the Founding Fathers and the public comment that you brought up, there were several people that were precinct delegates or executive committee members of the Ottawa GOP who got up and spoke during public comment, and they're talking about, well, not everyone does belong here.
Yeah, that was unbelievable.
One person got up and said that Lincoln promised the slaves freedom, not belonging. That is a direct quote.
Unbelievable. Who are these people?
And I just and then I remember noting that in my Twitter feed because I'm still doing the live Twitter casts, and I said, yes, really. Because even I was shocked that somebody would not stop and maybe say this in a mirror and think, that's a bad flex, because it is a bad flex. And there was one person who came up and said, well, now that we're talking about the motto, where is Matt Whitkos and where is Sarah Leach? It's interesting to me that I am still being referenced in this way, as if it's still the OI-led board. And then I noted on my Twitter, I'm still here where I've always been, and I have not been to an in-person meeting since January 10th of 2023. I have been doing this for 2.5 years. That's where I've been, which just shows that you don't understand how any of this works.
No.
And you don't understand what any of us, the rest of us, are doing.
No.
It just shows a complete, just misunderstanding of how all of this works together.
You want to cosplay as
it's a quick talking point, but it doesn't land.
No, you have a newspaper called The Hollander or whatever it is.
Is that what it's called?
I don't
No.
know what it is, but you
The Simply Hollander?
You are so far gone. You don't understand that Sarah was fighting for you. She was calling out newsrooms across the country that didn't have journalists in there. The news wasn't being reported. They were ghost newsrooms.
And some of them still are.
And she was fighting for you. You think that she was let go from the Sentinel because of something with Ottawa Impact. You're so far gone.
I know.
And
Don't give yourself too much credit.
Yeah, and trust me, they listen. Someone told me that the Ottawa County GOP, they listen to our podcast and they listen to interviews that we do, and then they pull audio and they play it at their meetings. So, hi guys.
Are they putting together the 2028 playbook? I mean, are
I don't know
we
what they're
Project
doing.
28?
I don't know what they're doing, but I did ask Commissioner Brugger. I said, listen, you've got constituents that are Republicans, and they've had it with Ottawa County GOP, and they are waiting for you guys to say something. Can you please say something or defend yourself?
Well, I will tell you that somebody called me last week and said, I think that the reason why, and I'm just saying, this is just one person, so I don't know how, and I actually argued with them when they said this. They said, I think that the majority on the Board of Commissioners is listening to your podcast. I think that that's why they're putting the motto on the agenda. And I said, I think that you're giving us a little too much credit.
Oh, yeah.
Because
we're not a big
I don't
deal.
know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Wow.
And I guess, they're trying to take in information from all places, and I think that some of them view us as a sort of bellwether because we are interacting with people that are in spaces that they're not necessarily
That's
interacting
true.
with,
Yeah.
Particularly in the progressive spaces. I don't think that we should take credit for that. I think that he was overstating the point, but I do think that this does resonate with some people, and it is a part of the conversation, and that's why we have it. Because
you're right.
people aren't really talking about what is leading up to these moments that we're seeing in these meetings, because it's very performative. These meetings, you have to sit and watch several of them to know. There are planned speeches, as I saw on Saturday Night Live when Will Ferrell was playing President George W. Bush. There's strategery in play, and
He was the best Bush,
I know,
by the
I
way.
know. And so they calculate certain things about what they will have the votes for, because it's embarrassing when you're just sort of surprising the entire board and the votes don't go the way that you want. You don't want that kind of dysfunctional government being on display for the whole public to see. So there is a little bit of politicking behind the scenes in order to put things forward that you think are going to be successful. I think that's people know that happens. But the timing can be kind of all over the place depending on a lot of factors. And so the timing does feel a little bit odd, given the point that you made about how they campaigned on changing the motto. 7 months later, why now, right? So that was the big question of a lot of the Ottawa Impact commissioners, like, why now? We were just starting to get along. Now going back to our previous conversation about how they're getting along a little too much. And I think I made the comment, you got to deal with your weird cousins. And I think that this is sort of how they decided to do that, because they're all part of the same family, right? They're all part of the same political party. You have to reconcile that at some point.
Well, yeah.
And then so here we are, where we have the most awkward Thanksgiving dinner ever last night in a long time, and it's like it was kind of all over the place. It was like the three faces of Eve. It's like we're getting along, we're not getting along. I'm passive aggressive, then I'm going to be direct, then we're going to be reconciling, and then we're going to go volley for another attack. It was weird. It was definitely 2023 vibes.
And shame on the peanut gallery laughing when Barbara Lee Van Horsen from the Momentum Center was speaking. Shame on you. Shame on you.
I got to tell you that
Grow the F up.
that poor woman has been through hell and back. I mean, professionally, and she was vilified by the former board for just really wanting to help people, and then she went through a very personal tragedy.
Yes, she did.
last year. And so she's, I give her a hug anytime that I see her because
I do
she
too.
really is a genuinely good person who just wants to do good in the world.
And they're sitting there laughing, and then there's certain people that you could tell when she starts talking about an open community and everyone belongs. They're sitting there in the audience and they get all uncomfortable. And I'm not going to mention her name.
I think I know who you're talking about. But that's funny that you mentioned that because I'm watching the video and I'm looking at who's in the gallery and I thought, oh, I haven't seen you in 7 months because now we just have an issue that you care about. And so now you're going to come out and say all of the things, about how terrible and awful this pulling the county motto back is. But you also aren't here for the business of the day to day, like I am, with all the committee meetings. I'm watching all the committee meetings. I'm watching all of the county commission meetings. I'm having conversations with people. But all you do is just kind of like cherry pick your issues that you have hard opinions about. But you don't do any research on. And so we're just supposed to listen to you in that moment because you just say things very forcefully. I mean, it was like the OG cast on the conservative side. Now, I will say that on the progressive side, there also is the OG cast of, the people that sort of started the counter-resistance, movement against Ottawa Impact and helped get some of these people elected. They definitely have their players too.
Sure.
But they are at every meeting.
Right.
They are at every meeting.
Yeah.
And it's not so on the conservative side. It's only when there's a polarizing topic where they feel threatened and they feel like they have to defend.
The last 4 days or so, maybe over the weekend and then this week, I've been trying to wrap my head around. There's been a lot of things that have come out about President Trump in past interviews, I'm 62 years old. I've been in radio for almost 40 years. I feel like I'm somebody that really knows a lot about pop culture. Donald Trump is somebody I've known about for a very long time. He's always been vulgar. He's always been disgusting. This is who he is.
Yeah.
He's always been on Howard Stern. He's always said how he's felt. I want to know how you can be so conservative and still vote for someone like that. I want to ask Joe Moss and Sylvia Rhodey and Allison Miedema. I want to sit down and ask them, tell me how if someone like Donald Trump, who was married 3 times, cheated on all of his wives, and treated women like it was a disgusting pig, you wouldn't even put a chair out at your table for dinner for this man. So you tell me how you support him. I want to know because I can't wrap my head around it anymore. I just can't wrap my head around. I just can't. This is a man who has never talked about his faith. He can't even quote scripture. I'm supposed to believe he's a man of God. Are you out of your mind?
Well, I think when you remember the Back to the Future movies.
Yeah.
Well, do you know that the character, I can't remember. What was his name? I think it was.
Help us out, Dirk.
Yeah, do you remember the bad guy in Back to the Future movies? It was like Beef or I want to say Beef, but it was this guy that constantly bullied the dad, right? And so obviously the main character's got to go back and make sure that his parents get together and everything.
Right.
But there's the big bad guy. That character was based on Donald Trump, and so all of the movies that were made,
Biff Tannen.
Biff. I said Beef, but I was close, right? I mean,
But
tomato. So I remember and I did not know that at the time. At the time that those movies came out, it was the 1980s, and I mean, I was not quite aware of the world because I wasn't old enough yet. But I once in the 90s, I kind of understood who Donald Trump was. I have to admit, I have never taken Donald Trump seriously.
Right.
He's always been sort of a caricature of a person.
Exactly.
Because he's been part of entertainment culture for so long, and I know that he's supposed to be taken seriously as some businessman, but I just saw clips of him, when I was in my teens and my 20s where he's just partying and he's, and him and Ivanka Ivana are walking around and they're partying and so they were on Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous.
Exactly.
And so I guess
those shows.
It just kind of put him in a whole nother bubble of the world that I did not take seriously. He was celebrity.
Right.
And so, years later when I think he first ran for president in 2012, if I'm not mistaken, because he didn't even make it into he ran a few times before he actually got elected, but it was part of a shtick though, because he was doing the reality show,
The Apprentice.
Yeah,
I blame NBC for that.
Because, he kind of, it was for marketing purposes and to raise his profile. And again, no one took him seriously. And so I guess here we are. in the second administration, and it's very difficult for me to take him seriously now. And part of my job is to explain what is going on in whether it's in the state, whether it's in Ottawa County, whether it's in a particular city. I have to make this make sense for people who don't understand it. I can't make sense of Donald Trump.
Right.
And so it's very difficult. I know that it's super serious. I know that he's in control of a lot of things that affect our lives, you know, immeasurably. But I just can't take him seriously as a person. And so I don't really react a lot to the things that he says because I just don't take him seriously one way or the other.
It's not so
He's
much,
like a cartoon to me.
It's not so much that
It's almost like he's not even a real person.
It's not that I react to what he says. It's how the people that support him, how they react.
Well, the
That's
human
the
mind is
problem I
capable
have.
of a lot of rationalization.
I wouldn't even associate with a person like Donald Trump.
I know, but you're coming from the perspective.
I'm sorry, you're a pig.
But you look at things from a totalitarian, not in a bad way, but like I like person A because they are kind and they are giving and they're nice to my kids and they send me Christmas cards and they give to charities, and so you're looking at the totality of the person. Now, the people who support politicians like Trump, or there's lots of other examples. They're only looking situationally at what a means to an end for one
right.
specific thing. There's no through line of logic. They don't love the person in their totality. It's just a means to an end. They serve a purpose, and then they'll discard him as the second that they're no longer useful. Which, frankly, Trump is very famous for himself.
So okay,
but you have to sort of. You're trying to project logic and reason onto a situation and people who aren't. And you can't ever force that out to come back to you. You can only control like what's going on in your own mind.
True.
And so, you're just going to drive yourself crazy trying to make sense of that because it never will make sense.
I just keep thinking in 10 years, what will Bill Huizenga's legacy be? No, let me finish. Will it be, because he's done a lot of bipartisan stuff. He's done a lot for the Great Lakes and the Great Lakes Initiative.
Sure.
He was on the Appropriations Committee for years. What will his legacy be in 10 years? I'm afraid to say it'll be that he kissed the ring, that he sold his soul for Donald Trump, because I don't even recognize who he is anymore.
Well, think about his predecessor. Think about Pete Hoekstra. Now, remember when Pete Hoekstra retired? And he was famous for not taking an apartment in Washington, and he slept on the couch, and it was a big deal when they took the couch out of the office because, and it was like the whole like blue collar thing. He had a great legacy exiting that office. Now, fast forward a couple of years, and we go into the first Trump administration, and remember that he was appointed as the ambassador of the Netherlands, to the Netherlands, I should say. And there were some things that were happening that he said. Do you remember some things that he said that he got into hot water about?
I do, because I was working in Holland and Gary Stevens had him on the air. Okay.
Where he was talking about Muslims.
Yes.
And it was, not great, Bob. And you can take an entire body of work of a career and you can just watch it crumble. And then eventually, we fast forward a few more years and we see the state of conservatives of the Republican Party in Michigan. And so, we had Christina Caramo, which was an absolute disaster, nominated by Joe Moss, by the way.
Right.
And she didn't, she gets forced out. So then Pete Hoekstra comes in to sort of clean up the mess. Well, now he's kind of in this sort of elevated version of what we saw in Ottawa County, where he's got, two branches of the same family tree, and the cousins aren't getting along.
Yeah.
And he couldn't really quite bring them together. So he's simultaneously campaigning for Trump and then, maybe not quite believing everything that he's saying when he's having private meetings behind closed doors. And we're seeing some reporting that is happening a little bit. I shared that story to you with you yesterday about how Republicans are saying one thing in public, but they're expressing some private sentiments that seems to not be consistent with what they're putting on for their public face. And I think that we're seeing a lot of that going on because I don't think that they're sort of crippled in the position that they're in because they don't want to jeopardize their political standing, because I don't know if it's necessarily a play to keep power. Maybe devil's advocate here. Maybe they're thinking that, well, if I lose my standing and if I lose my job and if I have to resign, then it leaves a void. And if I'm not here, then who will be here?
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know these people directly. I am not their friends. I don't know them personally. But I can see that it's complex sometimes in the way that this sort of manifests. And so, you see like what happened to Hoekstra. I think that the same thing is going to happen to Huizenga. Because you're put in an impossible situation. You're a Republican. You want to be a Republican. You felt like you knew what a Republican was, and then all of a sudden that changed over the last 6 years with no one really having a conversation about it. And now it's like either you're this version of a Republican, or you're a rhino, and you're the devil, and whatever. It's impossible. It's impossible to reconcile unless people kind of have that mental fortitude and political fortitude to say, I don't align with what this is now. And I'm going to go rogue and be an independent, or I'm going to switch parties, or maybe I'm just going to still be a Republican and sort of denounce what my party is doing. But no one's that brave anymore.
Right.
No one ever stands up and says stuff like that anymore.
Wow.
Because no one wants to deal with the consequences.
Did you read the book White Fragility? I have it.
I got to say I missed that one.
It
Sounds like a real page turner.
It's a very good book. I mean, by 2045, the white race will be the minority in this country. So that's what this is all about.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say it. That's what this is all about. Why don't we just start telling the truth? That's what this is all about. Your white fragility.
Well, we've seen that, in every manifestation of progressive politics. When the slaves were emancipated, I'm pretty sure that the white landowners were pretty freaking nervous the day before the slaves were emancipated.
Yeah, you're right.
Because that was a real day, right? Somewhere in the history of the world, that was a real day where everyone's like, I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. And it's a loss of control. The Civil War was based on this. We had a real fight for integrated schools and public spaces and restaurants because there was this fear that, what happens if we all sit next to each other and share a drinking fountain? God forbid. It's all about fear. It's all based on fear. We've seen cycles of this through time. This is just the particular version that we're getting since we're here.
Yeah, in the public comment showed that last night.
Right.
Wow. And I didn't even watch all of it because at some one point I was like, I can't watch this anymore. I got to go to bed and it's just not worth it. When you're saying that some people just don't belong.
Yeah.
What are you really saying? Why don't you just really say it?
There's the natural follow-up of what people don't.
Right.
Who
are you talking
which
about?
Which people are you talking about? Because I got some follow-up questions.
Yeah. On a lighter note, I have to tell you, the skydive community are amazing people. I just want to say this. They are the most amazing people. And the recovery community. Okay, we were out at this event, and it didn't matter if somebody was a Republican or a Democrat or whatever. Addiction, it happens to, doesn't matter.
You're flying with the birds.
I'm telling you, these people, they were just so wonderful. When we finally landed after the jump, Keith, my instructor, he says, "Thanks for jumping with me." And I looked at him and I said, "You're thanking me? My life was in your hands." Okay, there's video out there, and I've posted it, and it's on the website, you guys, but my gums are... I look like I belong in Whoville. I don't know where my head was at that day. And then look at this bruise. See that bruise?
Oh, yeah. Is that from landing?
No, I think I hit my arm on the plane or something. I don't know what I did. Because when you get in there, it's just a little puddle jumper. You get into this plane. It's just benches that you straddle. You're sitting on these benches and and then you got to keep moving up. And when it's time for you to jump, it's time for you to jump.
Yeah.
Like now, shut up and jump. And I think I might have whacked it or something. I don't know, but it's all worth it. So.
Did you have like a last minute freak out or anything?
Yeah, I did actually. You can see it where... I'm trying to put my feet on this, and he's, come on, we got to go, and then that's it, boom, we're gone. And then it's at one point in the video, you can see we're free falling, and the plane's way up there. It was so loud.
Have you ever seen it from the ground where the parachuters are coming down?
It's awesome.
It looks like a plane is pooping people. It does. It looks like little ants are coming out, and then the little chutes come out. It's really cool.
And then once that chute goes up, it's silence. It's this silence, and it was incredible. I will do it again. And the people at Skydive Grand Haven, they're great. And Reach for Recovery, Jump for Recovery, just great people. And, addiction... I think that I've learned that it doesn't matter whether it's alcohol or heroin or it doesn't matter. Addiction is addiction. It doesn't matter, right?
Yeah.
You shouldn't be like, oh, she was doing that. Oh, wow, No, addiction is addiction. It doesn't matter what it is, cigarettes, alcohol. And I think we're all sort of in recovery from something.
Yeah.
I mean, really, we all are, but just a great community, and I had a great time, and I would jump in a heartbeat. I think next time I'm going to wear like a helmet, and I don't know why I couldn't shut my mouth.
I don't know if you can fix that. I don't know. I don't think you're ever going to be able to shut your mouth.
What is the most important issue confronting the American people in this election campaign? There's no question about the answer that I have found in traveling all over this nation. Above everything else, the American people want leaders who will keep the peace without surrender for America and the world.
Vote for Nixon and Lodge, November 8th.
Do you like a man who answers straight, a man who's always fair? We'll measure him against the others, and when you compare, you'll cast your vote for Kennedy and a change that's overdue. So it's up to you, it's up to you, it's strictly up to you.